What's up, everybody? I'm John Middlekauff. You know what I need you to do. Subscribe to our YouTube channel. We got content for days reacting to every NFL game all the time, every single day. Subscribe, like the videos. Let's go. What is going on, everybody, on this beautiful Tuesday? Sunny outside. Going to record a podcast, maybe even go for a walk and go enjoy myself. Hopefully everyone is having a great day. I saw some comments were made by Steelers captain, former guest of this show, Cameron Heyward, who is tired of the Aaron Rodgers drama. I think that makes two of us, Cam. So we'll dive into that. A lot going on in college football. Deion had some interesting comments. Belichick, it feels like, is taking some heat for just being in love. And we'll hit on some different football as well as some other sports stuff going around. March Madness is here. It's always a fun week, Thursday and Friday, so let's enjoy ourselves. But before we talk about some sports, can I tell you about my friends, my partners in the official ticketing app of this podcast, Game Time? I looked on my television this morning and I saw, the Dodgers? Opening day? Oh, yeah. They do that thing where they go to a different country and they play games and then they come back, spring training. It's hard to follow with baseball, but it does signal that, Major League Baseball and the opening day is right around the corner. So if you want to go to a game, we got hockey playoffs right around the corner. You got NBA playoffs right around the corner. Concerts, if you want to get out of your house and go enjoy yourself sometime this spring, this summer, highly recommend it. Obviously, comedy shows as well. My friends at Game Time have you covered. Easiest app I've ever used. And I know a lot of you listening have used it and have recommended it to others. Keep doing that. We're a big grassroots movement here. But I promise you this. Sometimes we just need to get out of the house, whether it's our wife, whether it's a buddy, and just go do something fun. So take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use the code JOHN for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem the code JOHN for $20 off. Download the Game Time app today. Last minute tickets, lowest prices guaranteed. Aaron freaking Rodgers. I'd say it feels like we're coming down the home stretch, but I would not be confident saying that out loud. One thing is clear, as this is starting to bleed into his potential future teammates, where Cam Heyward, who has actually been on this podcast before, absolute stud, made some comments today. He's clearly tired of it, because it does feel, it's one thing if you're the New York Giants and you are completely desperate. What else are you going to do? You literally have no options. Not that the Steelers have a lot of options, because they don't either, but it does feel like, wait, this franchise, we're waiting and begging on this 41-year-old guy to make a decision, where it feels like he's actually begging for Kevin O'Connell to give him a call. My overall take is this is one story that I'm sorry, I'm kind of out on. I just don't care that much about. I'm sad. It hurts me to admit this, but Maria loves some shows on Bravo. Southern Charm, Southern Hospitality, Summer House. And I'd be lying if I said that I didn't get into parts of those shows and I don't want to say enjoy them, but did watch a lot of them. Then there got to a point, almost like a line of diminishing returns, that I was like, I can't do this anymore. The same people have been on the same shows for years. It's one thing when you're 28, when you're 24, when you're 30, and you are making money on television. Some of these people, 45 years old, there are pregnant women on this show. I can't take this seriously. I feel like I'm getting dumber consuming this content. And I knew she had lost me when she had rewound something I'd already seen. I'm like, I can't rewatch this for a second time. I am going to lose my mind. That's what I feel like with this Aaron Rodgers situation. We are discussing a 41-year-old over the hill, not that good of a player anymore. And listen, I have beat the drum for years of honestly, I think Aaron Rodgers is underrated. I think he's easily one of the best players in any sport I've ever witnessed. And the stuff he did in his prime for Green Bay, but even those couple years with LaFleur, it's like this guy, I don't even think gets his proper due. Now, we can nitpick some of his performances in the playoffs, not all of his fault. The defense let him down. But, and I often thought some of the controversies with him, like I think a lot of people agreed with his stance when it came to getting the jab. I don't think he was alone. And I'm not even talking about the general public. I'm talking about the players, the coaches. Don't act like he was some outlier. Now, once you start getting to the ayahuasca, the darkness retreat, I try to be open-minded. I'm all about trying to have some self-improvement. So if taking some drugs out in the wilderness, sitting in a room with no light, helps you find some mental clarity, listen, for each his own. And listen, we've all, I don't care who you are, this notion that all of our families are like each other's, like all of our families have different elements of being batshit crazy. And clearly Rodgers' situation has been a driving force of the conversation. I showed Maria the clip of, I didn't watch the Netflix documentary, but like the preview where Jordan had put out the plate. It's like I'm sorry, it's easy to point the finger at Rodgers. I don't know all the information that happened here, but that was whack job behavior by his family to do that on national television. So I supported him there. Like that's like I'm pointing the finger at brother and parents on that one. But like this situation now, like what are we talking about? Sam Darnold and Geno Smith just had a dramatically stronger market than this guy. At least we can all acknowledge like Russell Wilson is kind of an irrelevant player now. He just does not matter to the landscape of the league. It does feel like we're still holding on to Rodgers. It's like, the Steelers, could he what? Throw some touchdowns? Sure. Would they be good with him? No, they would not. At 41 years old, he doesn't want to get hit, playing in the cold. Like, it ain't going to work. And I just think this story, I get it. He's one of the most famous players in an era where the NFL has never been more popular. He's definitely one of the bigger names in all of sports. But I do believe this, and this happened to the NBA. Like, the biggest stories in the NBA the last couple years have nothing to do with basketball, right? And listen, having transactions be a big part of your league is not always a bad thing. We talk a lot about trades and draft picks and signings in football. But when that is the defining attribute of your league, you have a big problem. And when you talk about the NBA, like what are the biggest things that happen? They're always like trades or Stephen A. and LeBron yelling at each other. It's never like, hey, did you see that fourth quarter of the Warriors and the Nuggets? No one gives a fuck. And that is a problem. Luckily for the NFL, they still hang their hat on the games. Now, it's obviously the spring, and football is not coming back for 5 or 6 months. So this is all we have to talk about, are transactions. But it does feel like we've crossed the line of, I don't know if most people care about this story. Because I know me personally, I do this for a living, and I'm like, I don't give a shit. I understand where Cam Heyward's from. Like, I'm tired of talking about it. Come or don't come. But, like, stop asking us all about it. Make your fucking decision. Now, I think there's an element, and Diana Rossini has reported about this, like, is he just waiting for Minnesota to call him? I think it's a pretty big risk for Minnesota to go down that road, but I also think that just going with JJ also is a big risk. Like, that could be a disaster. It's very possible. This notion that he's just some plug and play and they're going to keep kicking ass, like, that's not the way football works. Especially for a guy that's never thrown more than 22 touchdowns in college, all of a sudden is going to carry an offense? I don't know. I would pump the brakes on being confident on that one, especially coming off a couple injuries when he's really skinny. That is why I'm sure they're having these discussions. But this discussion about, like, could he save the Steelers or what could he do with the Giants? Like, nothing. I mean, he's not going to do anything. When it comes to college basketball and March Mania, one thing is for sure. Nothing's for sure. Upsets, buzzer beaters, Cinderellas, top seeds going home early. It's all going to happen. Bet the unexpected. Every upset, every day with DraftKings Sportsbook. With live betting, exclusive content, promos, and parlays, DraftKings is the ultimate college basketball destination for March. Ready to make your first bet? Check out matchups and pick a team to win. It's that simple. First time, here's something special just for you. New DraftKings customers bet $5 to get $200 in bonus bets instantly. Bet the unexpected with DraftKings Sportsbook. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app. Use the code JOHN, that's J-O-H-N. That's code JOHN for new customers to get $200 in bonus bets when you bet just $5. Only on DraftKings. The crown is yours. Speaking of a guy that I think once upon a time, a lot of people just thought he was a big talker, and they turned out like, no, I'm actually a pretty good football coach, Deion Sanders. And Deion Sanders recently, a couple days ago, went on a rant about the spring game, which in college football has been, I would say, like universally canceled, which is not ideal for these programs' partners who pay them all the money, i.e. ESPN, Fox, CBS. If you notice during the spring, historically, those games are broadcast. Even if they're pretty stupid, it's content. Guess what? People watch Alabama, LSU, Ohio State, Michigan play spring football. And now most of these programs, like, we're out. And I get where they're coming from, right? They don't want anyone to steal their players. Matt Rule kind of started this trend, which Nebraska, their spring game, I don't know, gets 80,000 people, is kind of a big deal. And then it feels like everyone else followed suit. And Deion Sanders went the opposite way. Not only do I want to hold a spring game, I want to play another team. And I'm trying to convince the powers that be, i.e. my AD and my president, that this is a good idea. And I think what he's saying is like, we will pay someone to come here for 5 or 6 days, practice us for a couple days that wouldn't be on television, and then play in a spring game, which would be awesome. And ultimately, I think there might be an angle here that once they figure out this revenue sharing and you don't have to worry and the transfer portal can change a little bit, there's one free agency like there is in the NFL. This is your week, and if you're not signed or you don't move teams, you're staying on the team instead of all these different windows. And this window after spring ball, which all these coaches are terrified, that if all of a sudden they have a spring game and someone sees that my backup tackle is awesome, well, they'll get him on the horn and they'll say, how much you making? He'll say $300,000. They'll say, I'll offer you $500,000 and I'll make you my starting right tackle. And that's a problem where most of these coaches don't want to deal with. But I applaud Deion Sanders for thinking like this because it's just, this is entertainment. And I think anytime that you get off the road of like what the whole point of this is, and the reason these networks pay you all this money is people like watching it. And it's a really big deal. And college football is currently the number 2 sport in America for a reason. We love football. But like the current state and the way everything's going with everyone pulling back is not an ideal situation. And someone asked me yesterday, like Deion Sanders, if Deion Sanders has a good season this year, and a good season at Colorado is different than Texas and Alabama and LSU. It's like 8 wins. If he wins 8 games with Shedeur and Travis Hunter gone, like, get ready. I don't see how some of these massive programs, if they have openings, don't make Deion Sanders their first call. Another story that's actually kind of funny. Belichick, who it's, very public relationship with this young lady who's 24 years old named Jordan, that clearly North Carolina, it looks like, is on spring break. And Belichick was on the beach with Jordan doing like the move where usually you do it like your children or your nephews or whatever, where you lift them up and they kind of fly like an airplane above you. But Bill was doing it with his girlfriend. And while everyone laughs, I also feel there is this undertone, especially from like the media elites, that like how disgusting this is. This 74-year-old man is sleeping with this girl who probably doesn't like him except because he's rich and powerful. It's like, yeah, guys, no shit. What do you want Bill Belichick at 73, 74 years old to do? He's single and he's rich. You think he's going to be sleeping with grandma? Of course not. None of you would either. I don't blame Bill at all for doing this. And here's the one thing I respect about Bill. I would say historically, rumors in the football world, the NFL is a lot different than college. In the NFL, you go to essentially like a corporate office where most of the people you see throughout the week are your coaching staff, maybe people in your scouting staff, your training staff, and your players. in college football, and I worked on a college campus for a couple years before I went to the Eagles, you're around a lot of ladies. Not just the other girls and coaches that are in the athletic department, but when you go to lunch, when sometimes you walk around campus, you see the people on campus, which obviously there are young guys. There are also a lot of young women. And I have heard countless rumors, some that have been verified, of coaches who are quote-unquote happily married, having a side place, sleeping with co-eds. And forever it was like, and I think society was a lot like this. Don't say anything. Keep quiet. They don't need to know. Those days are fucking over. We kind of know everything. And anyone with a brain and that can use common sense understands, like, yeah, this is probably going on. So the one thing I will say about Bill Belichick, and you can crush him for a lot of things over the years, he ain't hiding shit. He ain't pretending that he's not running around with someone 50 years younger than him. Unlike a lot of coaches who then go home to their wives and families who also have the side young girlfriend. So, like Belichick, who I think is being harshly judged by a lot of people, like, give me a break. So, props to Bill for finding love and just doing it publicly. Before we dive into Laremy Tunsil really quick, I always get scared when a movie like Happy Gilmore gets redone. And it happens a lot, right? We have seen Jurassic Park 2. We've seen, a lot of movies have 2, 3, 4 versions of their original movie for a reason. It was successful. And usually successful movies, you believe you can do it again. And sometimes they become a big deal. I would say the most historic one probably of my lifetime would be the Rocky series, but recently John Wick. They had a lot of success and they just continued making them. But anytime you get into a situation where the movie was a really big deal and then there are decades that pass before you make another one, I get nervous. So when I saw the trailer today, and we've known it was happening, especially if you follow golf, because all these guys were involved in it, given that, meaning the pros. So I was like, I don't know, man. Sometimes just let something great be. Don't try to follow it up. And when I saw the trailer, I honestly thought a little cheesy. I'm like, I don't think this is going to work. And then the trailer ends and it goes, we'll go straight to Netflix. I'm like, actually, don't judge it as harshly. Because anytime, and I think this shows you how the world has changed. Before, I remember going to Bad Boys 2 when I was in high school. And there was probably almost a decade, maybe a little less, 8 years between those two movies. And it was a really big deal. And obviously it was a big hit. And then they didn't make Bad Boys 3 till almost 20 years later, which I still have yet to watch and just refuse to watch. Like, I'm out. This one, if it had been in the theaters, kind of would have made me sad. It would have been like, I don't know, man. But going straight to Netflix, like, I will never complain. You can do whatever you want. If you make the ability for me to consume your content the moment it comes out from my bedroom. And I give Adam Sandler credit. Clearly, he's done a lot of business with Netflix. He's created these movies. Even if Happy Gilmore 2 doesn't sniff the original, good news for you, it won't. Not as bothered if I just have to press one button while I'm in my pajamas on a Wednesday night. Let's welcome everybody to Chasing Challenges, brought to you by Microsoft. In the NFL, just like in the business world, overcoming obstacles is key to success. Microsoft empowers businesses decision makers with AI solutions, simplified cloud and data management, and trustworthy, responsible technology to turn challenges into opportunities. In this segment, we explore some of the biggest challenges being faced in the NFL and how they can be overcome. Whatever challenge you're facing, Microsoft empowers you with the expertise to say, bring it on. This week, we're discussing the challenges faced by the Washington Commanders. Adam Peters, who, before he took the GM job, spent years being John Lynch's right-hand man with the San Francisco 49ers, was a part of a major left tackle trade when they traded for Trent Williams. And the Niners got lucky because when they traded for Trent Williams, they didn't have to pay as much because he was like retired and he could kind of control his way there. Well, Laremy Tunsil was secretly, because Casario's a Belichick guy, on the block for a while. And I talked to countless teams, some AFC teams, playoff teams that were like, we had talked to them about Laremy Tunsil, but given that we'll probably play them in the playoffs, their asking price for us was dramatically higher than what it was for the Commanders. And what it was for the Commanders is not cheap. They're giving them a third-round pick this year. They're giving them a second-round pick next year. And the reason that they were willing to do that for a guy who's essentially going into the last year of his contract and is going to want, I would say, $27 to $30 million a year with $100+ million guaranteed, if not this offseason, next offseason, was worth doing it for is because of the position he played. And once the Commanders had a really good season, you're not going to get one of the top left tackles in the draft, and it was worth the risk. And they have a bunch of cap space, and this guy was available, you pull the trigger. But here's the thing with Laremy Tunsil. Extremely talented player. One of the best pass blockers in the NFL. Great athlete. Average against the run, but that's more of an effort thing. He had 19 penalties in 2024, which led the NFL. So you get a player who's a little older, he's going to be over 30 years old, who has a bunch of penalties, and who a team who also has a really good young quarterback on a rookie contract said, yeah, we don't want to be in business with this guy anymore. So the Commanders, who now take Tunsil, not only have to figure out, like, we got to get the penalties down, and Tunsil, in his introductory press conference, mentioned that as well, but we need you to play well enough where we are cool with giving you a massive contract. And anytime you make these type deals, like the Pittsburgh Steelers trade for DK Metcalf, they give a second-round pick, but they pay him a bunch of money. They're just in bed together. They're in business together. Like this, they committed to each other. This Tunsil thing is like, we paid a lot for you, but there's still a feeling out process. And we want you to show, and they did the same thing with Debo, is like, if you ball out, we got no problem paying you. But for whatever reason that they punted on you, you got to change a little bit as well. So it's on us to give you a conducive work environment, to coach you hard, but it's also on you to adapt to us because you're coming to a place that just had way more success than the place where you're just coming from. We were just in the NFC Championship game, right? You're a team that kind of fell off the map a little bit this year. So I think I'm fascinated to watch the Commanders, Dan Quinn and Adam Peters, navigate this situation. Obviously, anytime you get the chance to get a veteran Pro Bowl level left tackle, you have to think long and hard about it. But once you pull the trigger, like, there's no thinking. There's actually now, like, you're in business with this player, and it's going to be very, very interesting how the Commanders, who have to be the feel-good story of 2024, handle this, pretty interesting situation with the left tackle. So that's it for Chasing Challenges. Remember, Microsoft AI solutions empower you to take bold steps and make informed decisions, sparking new ideas to help drive business forward. With Microsoft as your trusted partner, you can navigate your journey with confidence, finding innovative solutions and reaching new possibilities. Visit Microsoft.com/challengers to learn more.